Hi everyone, today is October 27th, 2018, and this is the Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is Green Ranger.
And I'm DeckTech.
And frankly, this is a week where Konami has took a back seat and given us nothing. No real big event has shown up. Kind of a chill week before a new upcoming legendary duelist is obtainable. The KC Cup will begin next month sometime. And a bunch of new things are going to be going on, but now it's just a continuation of the Zane event, which has caused a lot of consternation amongst the community, some members of the community who couldn't get certain things. We're just going to talk about some esports today and all those little events that are just in the middle right now, or other things.
Yep.
What's up? Yeah, what's up?
So I was thinking about it, as you were saying that, and we're obviously in the last couple days of the season, and they know that to get a good starting point for the KC Cup, you need to do well with PvP this season. So maybe they intentionally gave us a light week to try to kind of allow/encourage people to play a little bit of PvP, because it didn't really work for me because I didn't play like any PvP. But that was more of like a real life issues. I had a very busy week at work. That's finally over. And then I was finishing up on Zane in the time that I did get to play. But I have finally actually finished up the Zane event, gotten all the rewards, including the ones for playing with the Cyberdarks. And so, I have a chance now to try something else. I was eyeballing that Cypher Soldier DNA Surgery Troll deck thing. I talked about before how Sea Stealth might be my most competitive deck that I already have available, so I could try to pick that up again. We'll see. But looking at these esports results that we're going to get into soon, I don't have any of these top decks available to me, so we'll see what I can do if one of those less popular, less successful ones ends up working for me, or if maybe I have to put a little bit of money into this or all my gems or something to try to get one of these meta decks too. I'm close to Masked Heroes, but I still need that last Anki like we talked about before, so maybe that'll be the route that I go. I don't know. How about you?
Right. I have, where am I in Zane? I'm somewhere between 9 million and 10 million now. I think I'm 9.5. And I have literally gotten 0 Cyberdark cannons from the drops. They give you one for free, of course, from the event points. But I'm among the many who have, people have, played twice as many event points as me, and I don't have that stamina, so I don't think it's possible I wind up with 1, 2, or 3. I don't know. I might get 2 of them in the next farm, but it's very possible I stay at 1, and we'll have to get this card with some ticket in the future. I don't know, but in ranked, I was playing Noble Knights for the whole month, and then I decided to switch over to Bandit Vampires because I felt like there's the card Paleozoic Canadia, which it seems like everyone has now, and it's not a good play to play a card of equip cards and then lose them all just because everyone has a Paleozoic Canadia. So I switched over to Vampires, Bandit Vampires, and I don't think I've really won any games. I've been stuck on 119 because I've just been trying to get that SR ticket, and I still haven't gotten it for the last 2 days, so barely winning anything. So I might switch over to Seal Tombs Vampires to finish out the season, or Noble Knights. Either way, I am fine being in Legend. I don't have to get King of Games, but it's a meta where the specialized decks are all switching over to the common back row, if that makes any sense. A lot of decks are running the same back row like it used to be. I think that's the way it was. But certain decks that did not run common back row are running common back row now. So that's a problem for me.
Mm. And when you say common, you don't mean in terms of card rarity. You mean in terms of everyone's running a similar back row set, right?
Yeah. What I meant is Masked Heroes used to not run back row. And now that there are the nerfs, they have to run back row for balance. Mm-hmm. And Vampires did not run back row, but now they are for countering Blue Eyes or something. I don't know. There's something to it where every deck is running Wall of D or Paleozoic Canadia. So.
Yeah. Well, why don't we look at the decks? Why don't we go into the esports?
So we are going to talk about esports for a little bit of time today. And last week we mentioned the Duel Links Pro Tournament 19, which has come back. They did their event last week on the 20th, and a lot of familiar names took the top four, and they participated in general. Some of the top players you see. First place, Mazarique. Oh, I noticed that the three of the four are on the same playing team, B and P. Bricks and Potatoes, and then one of the guys is from Murder Inc. So this is their Duel Links Team Wars, or I forget which Clan Wars or something. Yeah.
Nice. Another point, just to remind people, because it's been a little while since we've seen a Duel Links Pro tournament. They were off for a little bit, but they're back now. They use the Smash GG, which we've linked the bracket in the show notes if you want to check it out. And what you do is you click on the actual, the bracket shows, of course, who won, the game score and everything. But if you click on the little box with the players' names, then that will pop up that'll bring up a pop-up that shows you their decks. So that's where we're looking at the deck lists.
Mazarique brought the balanced masked heroes, from what I could tell, and I forget why they went to balance. They were previously switcheroo, I think. It's because polymerization's gone, I think, so they have to do something to account for it. But it makes sense, right? They have 50% chance of opening with a masked hero and a masked change, and it seems like it helps the consistency of the deck. And like I mentioned, they run 6 back rows now. So in addition to Treacherous Trap Hole, you've got Shinzeng Hu, which substitutes for Hey Trunade being nerfed, and 3 Paleozoic Canadians and a Mirror Wall too.
Yeah, if you look at this actual deck, I don't think he needed to replace Hey Trunade, right? Because he's not running any 2s, or is this guy? I forget. One of them.
So this is the Treacherous is a 2.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so this took place before? I don't know. The numbers aren't there, so that threw me.
It was before. It was on a Monday. The nerf, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. My bad. Because this is a 2. Okay. Yeah, you're totally right.
Let's see. So he also has a sideboard, and a common card we see is the Kinetic Soldier in the sideboard. And I think the Kinetic Soldier is just a card you would play against masked heroes because if it's face down, it can't be destroyed. It has the same attack and defense, so they would tie each other. And then you could just flip them into attack mode and destroy. No, wait, it's 30. It's gonna be 3,800 defense. So you're gonna make the masked hero take damage, and then you can attack them the next turn. Yeah.
So that's weird. Cypher Soldier and Kinetic Soldier are the same card. I think he's called...
yeah.
Yeah. I think he's called
It used to
Cypher...
be called Kinetic Soldier.
Okay, yeah. He's Cypher in Duel Links, but he's also Kinetic in some of these card representations. That's funny. I didn't know that.
They changed the name midway.
Interesting. So if you're confused, that's what we're talking about. In Duel Links, he's called Cypher Soldier, and yeah, it seems like it's a pretty decent card. We're seeing it in a lot of these sideboards, so it's funny because there's a little bit less concentration of warriors right now, since the Blue Eyes deck has come up and taken some of those spots away from Amazonis, which used to be huge. But I guess it's just a good option.
Heroes,
yeah, in terms of every deck is shifting a little bit, every deck's down a little bit in power level, so this is just one good option to fill that power vacuum, I guess.
Second place, Pikaru, who is also Andy Sang. This is the Arcana Trick Up the Sleeve Blue Eyes deck, which is everywhere. And this is a version that I've seen. I'm not sure who invented it, but it's on DK's top 5 lists. And this is a version that runs a card called Water Spirit, which is just a 1-star tuner with no abilities. But I think the reason they run this over the other guy is because it's a normal monster, and normal monsters have synergy with Birthright. And that's why it's there, so you could tune it out for the Azure Eyes Silver Dragon. And this deck also has the card Burst Breath, which is a trap card that can wipe the board.
Yep, makes sense. Seems like a very synergistic and kind of clean. It's 21 cards, but that we've already seen multiple times in Duel Links that small difference doesn't seem to really like mess with anything. So this seems like a pretty solid, maybe what you would call kind of the core or the standard build to build off of these days.
Right. The sideboard has the Burst Stream of Destruction. I think that functions the same way as the Burst Breath, but I'm not sure when you would pick one over the other.
Avoiding Jinzo,
When you can't
maybe?
attack Jinzo, yeah.
I don't know.
Third place, Mazarique. Oh wait, Gwizzy Duck. My bad. Gwizzy Duck played Gladiator Beast, Sealed Tombs Gladiator Beast. And it seems like they don't really have a solid composition of monsters, but you typically want the as many Laquaris as you can, some of the Bestiaries and Murmillos for removal, and then just some utility slots. So they have the Equesti and then the Dimikari also here. I read somewhere that the frog guy, Retiari, is very useful. It's in the sideboard here, but it's a very useful card for banishing things. It's kind of like a Sealed Tombs function against vampires.
I don't think I've seen that guy before, so that's cool.
And as I mentioned before, there's a lot of Paleozoic Canadias and Wolf D's slotted into this deck. So, what do you expect?
Yeah, it looks fairly similar to kind of just what we used to play when we played Glad Beasts. It's just strong enough that it's made a comeback, as we talked about with those nerfs that just kind of caused a power vacuum.
I would like to play Glad Beast. I have enough of those new Gladiator Beasts, but only have one Laquari, so it's not worth going back to get more.
Yeah.
And finally, fourth place, Lular. Lular also played Arcana, Blue Eyes White Dragon. So this is the same deck as what Andy Sang was using, but the difference is there's only 2 bingo machines, so I guess he only bought the pack twice for $3.99 for 2 packs and 1,000 gems, and also an Ultimate Providence. This is a 20 card deck.
Yeah, so, I mean, Ultimate Providence makes pretty good sense. You have a nice distribution of the various things. You can revive your, obviously kind of gets your engine going a little bit, so the discard isn't always a downside. So it seems pretty cool. Probably, if it only requires you to buy it twice, that's probably how I would build it.
Yeah, same thing. Silver Cries, though. I don't know about Birthright seems to be a card you need a lot of, and Silver Cries, so those might be a bit of an obstacle.
Yeah.
Depending if you want to play that. I think I have 1 Silver Cry and 2 Birthrights. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know what I have.
Oh, wait, you get one from the box. You get one from the structured deck. I know that.
The Silver Cry? Oh, or the Birthright?
Birthright,
oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well then I'm fine, because I have at least 1, and we're buying the box twice in this hypothetical. So then it's just Silver Cries.
Which is a UR and a mini box, I think? Or is it a regular box? It's a regular box UR.
Yeah. Game over, man.
You still.
I have 2, so
Oh, yeah.
So that's in Stardust
free to play
Acceleration, Anyway, that's one other option, I guess, when I'm trying to find my new deck.
We are going to move on to the next tournament, which is Genkai Cup 3. Apparently, this was the largest Duel Links tournament ever hosted in Japan. So, that's big news. And be sure to follow with Genkai 10. So that's yugioh _ Genkai 10. He arranges these tournaments. I guess he's the DK in Japan. I guess I don't know.
That's cool. I just when we're talking about the general breakdown here, we see some of the stuff that we're used to seeing on our side. We've got Vampires did very well, had a lot of representation. Masked Heroes did well. We've got the resurgence of Glad Beasts. But here, second most popular deck. What
That's not.
is
It's.
this?
I think that's other.
Oh, okay, just
Yeah,
general
it's
other.
It's confusing. It's very confusing.
Yeah, I'm looking at the picture. It has images, but it also has like Japanese characters, so I can't read what it says. But I'm just like looking at it like, what is this category? Okay.
Yeah, I was confused for about 2 minutes, and then just from the wheel how it goes, it makes sense that's another, right?
Sure.
Because it would be with next to the vampires, like on the right, on the left side. I mean, on the like
okay, yeah.
between masked heroes, right?
If you start at like 12 o'clock and then you're filling up. Okay, so it's the last section is what you're saying. Okay, all right.
And I'm not sure if those decks are combined. I think they're just two separate decks. That there's a control deck and then there's the equip deck or something. I don't know.
I like to think that there's a controlling equip deck, and I really wanted to know what it was about, but it didn't end up making it to the top 4, so I guess we'll never know.
Anyways, first place. Oh yeah, this is a 256 player tournament. They have a whole bracket. They have a lot of stuff going on here. It's huge. It must have took forever to play this game, but one deck, 5 card side deck, single elimination. So I guess it went a little faster with a single elimination. But first place, Firu, Steel Tombs Vampires. And this is... Vampires, I've noticed, are one of those... Like I mentioned before how they didn't run back row except for Econ and a Vampire Takeover. It's not really back row. But now they're starting to use those cards like Paleozoic Canadia. This is one example. There's also... wait a minute, I messed this up. I'm looking at the wrong thing. They have Paleozoic Canadia, and one very interesting card I noticed is Crevice into the Different Dimension, which is, I think it's a really good card against Blue Eyes. Like Zombies, Blue Eyes, Masked Heroes, it could be good against any of those decks.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like you said, all of them. I mean, all the reasons why you would want to run Sealed Tombs, I guess, are also good reasons to run Crevice into Different Dimension. And it's just a rare, and it's a drop, so anyone can get it, even if you don't have Sealed Tombs yet, which I don't. So, something to consider.
Natsu, second place, Sealed Tombs Vampires as well. This one is 23 cards. It's another similar looking deck, but this one is a bit more aggressive. You have Hey Trunades in the deck. 3 times Widespread Ruins instead of the Paleozoic Canadia. So that's another example of a good common trap card being put into a deck that did not run trap cards. And there's also the card Mirror of Oaths in the sideboard as well. Wall of D's as well.
Yeah, I thought the Mirror of Oaths is pretty interesting. For those who are unfamiliar, because it's a rare trap, a normal trap, that reads, when your opponent special summons a monster from their main deck, destroy that monster, or monsters actually, and if you do, draw 1 card. So obviously that can make for a huge swing turn if you can hit something with it. I guess it hits vampires. It used to hit Amazonists, but they're gone now. I don't know the Blue Eyes deck well. Does it pull from the deck?
I know they do a lot of graveyard stuff.
Yeah.
Cosmo Brain discards. I feel like they have to. No, no, Masked Heroes doesn't work either because that's extra deck.
Yeah.
Or what it hits.
Well, it's interesting.
That's why it's a sideboard card.
Yeah.
Not a main deck card.
People are screaming at their phones right now, or whatever.
Let me just look at these cards. Dragon Spirit of White. Special summon a Blue Eyes from your hand. Silver Cries from the graveyard. Bingo Machines just to draw it. I don't think Blue Eyes does. Cosmo Brain. Oh, Cosmo Brain. Special summon 1 normal monster from your hand or deck. There you go.
Yeah. So that could be it. That seems like... I mean, I guess because they're running the skill specifically to get the Cosmo Brain out, then you have a very good shot of it having a target. So it's not as limited just because there's only 1. Okay. Right. It's interesting choice. I like it.
I don't know. Every Arcana I faced on the ladder, they already had Cosmo Brain in their hand. They never had to use the skill. I don't know if my games were rigged. I don't know.
It's your starting hand. That's why the skill
Third
is
place, yeah.
the skill is your starting hand will include one level 7 or higher dark spellcaster.
Yeah, see, I didn't even. I thought this whole time. I thought it was a minus 1800 draw spellcaster skill.
Yeah, so that's how they always
man.
start with it. So, like we said, that makes perfect sense then, because Mirror of Oaths, you can pretty much always guarantee that it hits something versus them, since they're starting with it in their hand. So there we go. We figured it out live, everyone. We're caught up with the rest of you.
That explains why I lost against so many of those decks, because I didn't attack all the way.
Yeah, you can't hold back.
Okay. Third place, Bobby, Arcana, Blue Eyes White Dragon deck. This is a different version than the one we saw in the last tournament. There's no Water Spirit and no tuner at all, actually. So this is a non-tuner deck. You do have 3 bingo machines, and it's more unconventional. They run Lila, which helps dump stuff into the graveyard, and kind of do a Sergeant Electro type ability. And also Forbidden Chalice and Dust Tornado. These are cards you don't typically see in this deck.
Yeah, we'll see. The next one has a similar kind of setup, and I guess maybe that's in other card games I've played in the past, specifically Magic, and also we see a little bit of it in Hearthstone. The Japanese region kind of tends to have their own style and innovations, and maybe it's partially due to the language barrier or whatever, that even in this internet age, it kind of carries over, where they just have their own different kind of versions of the deck, and it seems like maybe this is the Japanese version of the deck, which is pretty cool. I like that there's still those regional differences where players have different styles or different decks or whatever.
And FGHHYH, fourth place. These two actually had to play each other, so they weren't tied for third place. They were Bobby was specifically better than FGHHYH. And this is the another Arcana deck, a very similar core as Bobby's, but this is the most free-to-play version because you have only one bingo machine. So this guy only bought the pack twice because he has extra Dragon Spirits. He just decided to use one bingo machine for whatever reason. Only one Birthright as well. And you have 3 Paleozoic Canadias here and 3 Lilas.
Yeah, so it looks like the Lilas and the Paleozoics were his call, of course, but I don't know, man. Cutting it down to 1 Birthright when everyone else is running 3 seems kind of sketchy to me. I think that might have been why he lost, and then obviously with the bingo machine with only 1 makes your deck a little bit less consistent. So I think he was trying to make his deck stronger against other decks in the field, but it just made him just obviously weaker in the mirror match, so I'm not surprised at all that he ended up not winning that one.
Yeah. The bingo machine, from what I could tell, they always select the Spirit of White, so they pick 3 Spirit of White, so you have to draw it, and then you get it right off the bat. So
Sounds good. The last thing is that this tournament has the actual full tournament VOD here. It is 6 hours and 35 minutes long. So you can watch any or all of it. Yeah, I mean, it's huge. It was a 200-something person tournament, so that's very quick for that. I guess since it's single elimination, you're just cutting it in half every time. So I don't know how many rounds that is just off the top of my head, but they do have little stops indicated here, so I guess that might be 1 for each round or something if you want to specifically check those out. And just quickly browsing through it, I just saw an Amazonist deck somewhere in here. So, that's also crazy. You can check it out.
I faced them in the ladder. And I think I got lost to one.
Oh man. Okay.
They're not completely dead.
Not completely dead yet. It's like the Black Knight in the forest, right?
Not completely dead.
Monty Python reference. Okay.
Hey. All right. So, last thing is the Meta Weekly 43, which is typically the thing we begin with, but there were other tournaments this week. This happened on the 23rd of October, and Masked Heroes have emerged again. the consternation of me. But they are the most represented deck. And then we go to top 16. Masked Heroes and Vampires were tied for 5 each. So, both pretty good.
Yeah, it seems like the representation of the whole field roughly matched the top 16. Masked Heroes were a good amount ahead of Vampires in terms of the whole field, whereas they tied in the top 16, so I guess that means Vampires slightly overperformed, or Masked Heroes underperformed slightly. But otherwise, it pretty much matches where Blue Eyes was the third most popular, and it was the third most popular in the top 16, and then there was kind of a smattering of other things which were also kind of the next most popular for the most part in the full meta breakdown. So it kind of makes sense. There's lots of archetypes here, but it looks like some of them aren't really the most competitive, so those are the ones that didn't make it. Not surprising.
Yeah. Aliens and Fur Hires kind of cracked it. Things like Six Samurai, Hieratic too. Hieratics are there too. Ujins.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it seems like some people were just kind of playing their favorite decks, which makes sense because the Meta Weekly's free, right? Yeah, so there you go.
I played a Meta Weekly once. I forgot what I brought, but I lost.
Yeah.
Serenity, first place, Sealed Tombs of Vampires. This is a newer version of Vampires because they have Mirror Wall. Mirror Wall is a card I would expect in Banded Vampires, but I guess it's fine here as well. And then the sideboard has Cypher Soldier, as we mentioned, just a good card against the Masked Heroes, Hatrunades, and Paleozoic Canadias.
Yep. Yeah, nothing really to comment on this one. Pretty much.
It's 20 card. It's a 20 card vampire deck, so that's a new thing they're going towards.
That's kind of new.
NG second place beatdown for Hires. They are back. There is one each of the cards that got nerfed. So there's Dinah, Wiz, Donpa, one each. No econs. No room for econs. 3 widespread ruins and 3 Paleozoic Canadias. Another example of a deck that traditionally did not run much back row aside from Treacherous Trap Hole. They can't do that anymore, so now they have some really good ones in Widespread Ruin and Paleozoic Canadia. And if this guy wanted to, Super Rush Headlong too.
Yeah, he's got them in the sideboard as well as 2 Cosmic Cyclones, so I guess you can just see that the deck is changing in its composition, and it had to because of the nerfs, but that means when you're playing against it now, you have to play differently as well. You don't have to worry about the Treacherous Trap Hole. But you do have to worry about Widespread Ruin and Paleozoic Canadia, so kind of change the way you play a little bit.
Wulad TV, third place. Bandit Vampires, this is a bit of the old, ugly 22 card version. This is kind of what I was playing for the ladder, which I lost a ton. There were the Cosmic Cyclones and the Mirror Walls, so you could activate Bandit type situation. And then in the sideboard, DNA Surgery. Not sure what that's for. I guess that's for disrupting things. If they have like a warrior synergy with disrupt it or something, I don't know. Because there's nothing we could do with the vampires and zombies.
Right. Yeah, I've seen a couple of these. I think it might just be, like you said, to mess up other people's synergies. I'm also not exactly sure what happens if someone does their DNA surgery and then you do your own.
Does the second one takes effect, I think.
That's what I was going to say. I'm not sure if the second one overrides the first one or if they're both in effect and your monsters have both the causes or whatever. But it might have something to do with that as well, where some people sideboard DNA surgery specifically to counter vampires, so maybe this is to kind of bring it back to let you reverse it and do your own zombie thing again. Not 100% sure there, but...
Yeah. And... third place, Mordecai with Balance. Masked Heroes. Shingzhen Hu is pretty much the substitute for Hatrunade. We've seen it in enough lists to confirm that. And, yeah, like I said before, they run good back row. They have Paleozoic Canada. They have Mirror Wall. This one still has Treacherous Trap Hole, so you can't just attack these guys anymore. You have to use your Cosmic Cyclones or whatever you could use to control your back row.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. He can still get away with Treacherous Trap Hole because his traps sometimes don't end up in the graveyard. 3 of them are continuous, and then 3 of them are Paleozoic Canadias that get out of the graveyard and then kind of banish themselves. So even if he doesn't necessarily start with the Treacherous Trap Hole, maybe he can still get it to work. So, you don't have to specifically, that's something you can keep in mind when you're building your decks. You don't have to specifically run it in a deck that only runs like Treacherous Trap Holes. You could run it in decks with traps. We've seen that with Amazoness, but that was kind of a more obvious example because you had an easy pitch for it. You can even do it in decks like this where there isn't really a way to use it if it's not active, but just if you keep in mind the other traps that are in there with it, and maybe it'll still work, especially since he has balance, so he has a moderate chance of starting with it before he gets his other ones. Not a particularly good chance, but a bit of one.
Yeah. Somewhere along the line, Paleozoic Canada became pretty much the best trap card, I think. Somewhere along the line. It just, the ability of it to negate effects, kind of, we used to see Floodgate all the time. Now it seems to have taken over Floodgate. And the ability of it to come back as a monster. And there was also a thing I noticed when I was playing Noble Knights, how when you try to target it and destroy it as a monster, it wouldn't be destroyed. There are certain things about it being a trap monster that made people misplay as well. So, definitely a card you would go back just to get extras of if you only have one, for sure.
Interesting.
Alright. Now we're going to talk about some of the little things that are going on. Kaiba's birthday. Even though he is very rich, I guess he used all his money or he's cheap, and we've gotten gems from other places, so it doesn't feel as bad as it used to, but we are just getting sleeves and a playmat for playing Kaiba 10 times. You don't even have to win with him, but it's something, but not that important. Not that significant of a gift.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of, I mean, some people really do like the mats and the sleeves, and they get excited about them, and, whatever. So that's cool. Good for them. It feels like kind of a non-event for the rest of us. So that was a little bit of a disappointment, but like you said, I was in the middle of doing the Zane event and getting a bunch of gems from that and stuff, so I guess I didn't specifically need something for Kaiba. It just feels like it would have been nice. Also, it's interesting that we get like a ton of stuff for Yugi's birthday, which of course makes sense in terms of it's Konami's product and Yugi's kind of like the front man for it. But if you consider the metagame, or I guess the story within the game, that Kaiba's running Duel Links, the Duel World, then it's funny that Kaiba has like this giant celebration to celebrate Yugi, his best frenemy, and but then when it's his birthday, he's like, I don't want to talk about my birthday.
He doesn't tell people when his birthday is. It just got leaked, and he took sick that day, and no one was there to celebrate.
Exactly, yeah. He's one of those guys who's like, don't even talk to me about my birthday. I don't want to.
No time for that.
Yeah, exactly. He's running a company.
Yeah.
He needs more pie charts.
All right. Let's talk about Duel Links in real life.
Yeah, so this is pretty cool. Apparently it was announced in July, but it's going live in November. So they're kind of gearing up for it now and giving us more details about it. And what it is I guess because Duel Links was so successful, I would assume, they're kind of porting a Duel Links speed duel format into the real-life Yu-Gi-Oh game. And so next month they're going to be releasing speed duel like starter structure decks, and all of the cards in them will be legal in regular TCG play, so it's like a normal Yu-Gi-Oh set, except that they have special speed duel rules that mirror those of Duel Links with the 4,000 life points and the limited, the limited trap and monsters, a smaller deck, 4 cards in start and hand. 3 monsters, 3 trap. I wanted to make sure of that. And so they're using the Duel Links structure, and to mirror the Duel Links skills, they have skill cards, which are, it's kind of like your extra deck. It's just a separate thing. You have your 1 skill card, and you start with it face down, and then the match starts, and then you flip it face up, and then based on what the skill card says, you have like a skill just like in Duel Links, where you can activate it sometimes, or it just goes on its own. I assume for ease of doing it in real life, they don't have any of the skills that like you start with an extra card, or you add an extra card from outside of the game into your hand, or probably not any of the ones where your opening hand structure is different, because then you'd have to like flip, reveal your card, and then like tutor out stuff from your deck, and that would just be messy. I've seen a couple examples where it's stuff like if you have a Harpy Lady, then for my one right here, they have if you have an Amazoness monster and a Harpy monster in your hand, you can reveal them and draw a card. Or if you control an Amazoness monster and a Harpy monster, you can draw 2 cards. And you can use each skill only once per duel. So these are the kind of things that I think make more sense for porting over to the real life version, where it's like things where you don't have to like mess with cards, add cards, or mess with your hand or whatever, but just where you can just verify something, the state of the game, and then get a benefit within the game. So things like this, things like giving your monster a buff or something, those make sense. And so it'll be pretty cool to see how they can port our game essentially over into the real life version and see how well that works for them over there.
Yep, they have no main phase 2, so I guess you would not use any card that mentions the main phase 2. Yeah, there's like they say there's 9 skills, I think.
Oh yeah, 9 included in each starter deck. So there's a lot to choose from already, and I think if it works, then they're going to kind of keep adding to it. And I think they assume that it will work because they've added this whole thing, and because Duel Links has kind of shown them that this format is already interesting to some people, and so they're going to try it out and see if it becomes a big format. It's kind of like when Magic the Gathering made Commander into an official format. They had this thing that people were already playing and enjoying, and it wasn't like a main competitive format, but it had a big enough audience that they just kind of decided to make it an official thing, and then they started printing products specifically for that format. And they're clearly doing the same thing here, at the very least with the skill cards, but I imagine they're also going to make cards in these structure decks that work in regular Yu-Gi-Oh, but are like better when you're playing in this format, and so it's kind of designed for this format specifically.
It can kind of work both ways in that it can help inform which TCG cards to bring next into the Duel Links, or it could also make new cards that are like specifically for Duel Links. Not really, but they are. They could just make a new card. We've seen some cards. We don't know where these cards come from, right? That go into Duel Links. Like, let's say the Psychic Ace, for example, is a card that was only released a few months ago in the TCG. So there could be cards that are just good in Duel Links, not that good in the TCG, that are just released. So they could be a card for Duel Links, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. It allows for both games, this real-life version and the Duel Links, digital version, to kind of inform each other. So one can be the testing realm of the other. They can give us like one copy of a card and see how impactful it is in the format, and then decide whether they want to print it in real life. I guess they don't really do that very often, where they have it go that way. But I guess they can show the real life, and it definitely works in that direction, where depending on how that format works in the real life format, then they can decide to bring it over to Duel Links or not. The upside to the Duel Links is that it's really easy for them to get a lot of player data on Duel Links. So they can use that, I guess, to maybe not so much inform what cards are printed next, or not are added to the format next, but specifically like for printing future cards.
Yeah, definitely an exciting time for the game. I know that the TCG isn't like where it was in its heyday, so this might be like a way to kickstart things there as well. So let's hope it all works out. It's an exciting thing.
Yeah, it's really cool when you can see like how the game is clearly just adapting and growing. I get a strong impression that Duel Links was never intended to be this big and this serious, and that it was kind of supposed to just be a fun, mobile, easy game. And then it ended up just working out really well for them, and they're rolling with it, and they're trying to learn from it and take advantage of it as best they can. And I admire that. I like that in the company.
Yeah, for sure. Duelist challenges are back. There are 3 released as of this recording, so there's 2 more left. You get a legendary sword. A card you don't really use at all, ever. And you get a second magical planter as well.
Yeah, so the legendary sword was weird. I don't know why they gave us that.
Yeah.
That was the one that was the second reward, I think.
They could have given us just like a 4-star 1800. That would have been better.
Yeah, I don't know. Or just something, a tuner or something like that could have gone with something that's a little more relevant now. But anyway, I guess equips are kind of relevant now. I'm really excited about the Magic Planter, though, because it's the type of card that you can really mess with and build around a little bit, but we only had 1 copy, and so it's really hard to build around something if you only have 1 copy. It just makes your deck super inconsistent. So now that we're going to have a second copy, it's something that it's probably not, obviously, that you would build just a whole deck around. It's not a strong enough effect for that. You still only have 2, all of that, but it is something that I can definitely slot into decks, or make you could have a Magic Planter package where you have 5 cards that kind of go together with the Magic Planter that you can sometimes put into a deck or whatever. So that seems really cool. We obviously have a couple cards that work well with it already, and so I'm excited to see how we can mess with them and how it can work.
Yep, another example of them releasing the level up cards as extras. We know that we've done that with Harpy Lady and DNA Surgery, so this is the next one where they're doing that. And I want to note that I've solved all 3 challenges without looking at help.
Hey!
This is the first time I've gone this far, I think.
Well,
I guess they're easier.
Yeah, there's still 2 more for you to mess up, but yeah, this is pretty good. I felt like 1 and 2 were pretty easy. The third one was a little tricky, but still pretty doable. I messed it up, and I was like, oh, that was stupid. I realized right away what I was supposed to do, and I was like, okay, all right, now I get it. But I like the challenges because when you go to the ones in the duel school, they're not challenging at all. It's they give you 3 cards, and the challenge is play the 3 cards so that you win this turn. I'm like, okay. So those ones feel more like a tutorial than any sort of challenge. So I like that these ones are at least a little bit challenged, so you can have a little bit of fun, trying to figure it out.
Yeah. It would be crazy if they have an endless quiz mode.
Yeah, I mean, I could go for that. I could go even if not endless, just a little bit more substantial. Hearthstone just added one with their latest expansion that was pretty long, and it took a while, and it was actually pretty challenging. I actually had to look for one of the Hearthstone ones to figure out how to solve it, and I'm pretty solid at that game, and the mechanics are generally pretty simple. So the fact that they, even within that game, which is intentionally made to be a little bit cleaner and a little bit simpler than Yu-Gi-Oh!, there was still a lot of room to make those challenges and some really cool stuff that they could do with it. So since Yu-Gi-Oh! Is specifically has a lot more that it does with each of its cards, I think there's a lot of room to make challenges as well.
The next quiz is going to be a 10-card hand watch.
Yeah, and then each card is 4 paragraphs long, like Yu-Gi-Oh! Likes to do. And then
so figure out this.
It's going to be, you just have to finish reading the novel that is in your hand, and then you're like, oh, okay, now it makes perfect sense.
Train Your Kuriboh is back. We get a new ticket, of course, that's all that it means. It's a very delayed ticket. New things in the pool, but nothing exciting.
Yeah, I took a quick look to make sure, I checked to see if I could get Anki, but of course I couldn't because it's not a dream ticket. It's just, it's a UR/SR, so that's kind of cool. It's bigger than most tickets that we get. And then if you hold on to Kuriboh long enough, it is, prismatic. So, that's kind of cool. It's like you said, it's not super exciting, but you can get something that you're missing.
And let's talk about Obelisk now.
Yeah, some people on Twitter asked us, if we'd heard about the Where is Obelisk movement. I guess fans are getting a little bit impatient, waiting for him to show up, because obviously we have 2 out of the 3 Egyptian god cards, and they're kind of wondering why we don't have a complete set yet. I don't remember exactly when we got Slifer first, right? Or did we get Raw?
We got Raw around like my birthday time. I remember.
Okay.
That was last December. That was when I was in LA, and Slifer was during an event, like the first Merrick event, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
That's the tie-in with strings with Slifer,
right?
And, that's how you got that. I think Slifer was first.
I think so too, and that all sounds right. So anyway,
and no one played those cards. Like Ra's for farming. Ra's is a really good farming card.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I think that might be part of the reason why people are upset is that they're not powerful cards for like PvP play, and so it's not a question of breaking the game or anything, right? So people can't just be like, okay, well, they can't release Obelisk right now because otherwise the game wouldn't work. The people who want it are the people who are specifically trying to collect the 3 Egyptian god cards, or who think it's cool to have the full collection and stuff. So I think that might be what's going on there. I don't know. For me, it's not a huge deal, but a couple people were talking about it in the community, so wanted to raise it as well. And I think my answer is the same one that I gave on Twitter, that the longer he's gone, the more tormenting he does. So it's very on brand.
Very on brand. Hey, the I want my gems actually worked. They're actually giving us gems though, so I don't know. Maybe if there's enough complaints, we'll get Obelisk soon.
Yeah, maybe that's the plan. I don't like communities that become kind of like at war with the developers, where we're just demanding stuff from them and constantly fighting with them. So I hope it doesn't turn into that. I do think it's good for developers to listen to the community, and when the community has fair complaints, like I felt I Want My Gems was, then that's cool. But I just want to make sure that we're careful in pumping the brakes and not freaking out too much about not having a card that isn't really relevant. And we'll get it eventually. They're going to give us Obelisk at some point. But I think it's just a little bit dissatisfying to people to have 2/3 of a collection where they're like, come on, where's the last guy? So
yeah, that's true. So we're going to finish up this episode by talking about upcoming news. New news was added this last night. Tetsu Trudge is still obtainable within 2 days. So we get a new legendary duelist and all his cards, which we will go over next time. There's a new upcoming event where we fight through a dungeon. That's all we know about it. It could just be another DD tower or something reskinned. Early November. Inglorious Bastion is coming mid-November, and he is giving us at least one new card, which is revealed, Shutendoji. Let's talk about the card. 4-star zombie, 1500, 800. Once per turn, you can activate one of these effects. Effect number 1, banish 2 zombie monsters from your graveyard, draw 1 card. Second effect, target one of your banished zombie monsters, place that target on the top of your deck. So there's a lot you could do with this card, obviously, and it seems like it's a zombie card, but doesn't have to be a zombie card, but I guess there is synergy in having the other zombies in the graveyard, so you could do some tricks where you'd bring a banished one back with some trap card or something. New card.
Yeah, it's an interesting card. It might see some play. If it were Fiends, it would have more immediate and obvious applications, so maybe that's why it was specifically not Fiends and specifically zombies. But as a zombie card, there are still obviously some uses. There's some zombies that banish themselves and stuff, so maybe we'll see something out of that.
Maybe the vampires could go all full out BLS. Wait, BLS does the same thing, never mind. BLS, you bring the card back. You bring the banished one back, so it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Never mind. You could just recycle your familiars and
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was thinking. It's kind of just to get them back and keep the cycle going and stuff.
And Casey Cup, November 14 to 25. This season's rank counts for it, so get to Legend or King of Games, wherever you are. Late November, Duel-a-thon. Late November, special character who one future king is the clue. I forget who he is. And early December, tabletop RPG Monsterworld, and a Magic Cowboy is obtainable.
Sounds fun.
Either Jack, Atlas, or Tristan. I forget who.
Woo! All right. Yeah, those are fun characters, so that's kind of cool.
Sweet. That is us. That is it for us today. Thank you very much for listening. Search the Duel Assessment on any of your podcast searchers or Spotify, and you will find this podcast there. Check out the podcast and more on our website, theduelassessment.wordpress.com. Facebook, facebook.com/theduelassessment. If you want to help our work, patreon.com/duel_assessment. I apologize to Grant Harrier for not responding on Discord for 2 weeks. Well, I finally got your message. So, I did face you in the Duel Carnival, because I was playing Noble Knights, so it was very likely me. Email us, theduelassessment@gmail.com, or you can find us on Twitter, duel_assessment, me at Green Ranger CCG, DeckTech at HS DeckTech.
Yeah, and we respond there much faster than 2 weeks, so apologies for not being the best at Discord, but we're pretty good at Twitter.
Okay, well, see you guys next week.
See ya.